It is Monday, February 16th, and you're watching the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The Habs are obviously not playing right now, so we can't really talk about them that much. However, the Laval Rocket are back in action. There's plenty to talk about there. 7 wins in a row. The team is rolling. Afterwards, we're going to talk about Michael Hage because, my goodness, 5-point weekend and a shootout winner. How about that? He's feeling it right now. We have a great topic suggestion as well to get to. I'm not going to tease it too much just yet, but it's going to be a fun one. And later on, we have one great mailbag question in the queue. Snake, it's going to be a great show, and it all starts right here, right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The sickest NHL prospect podcast with Snake and Shayne.
With the 5th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
It's gonna be sick.
All right, producer Shayne here, joined as always by my counterpart, Simon the Snake Boisvert. Snake, how are we feeling today?
Doing fantastic, Shayne. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Enjoying the Olympic hockey, even though some of the games are a little unbalanced. We'll call it like that. I mean, it's for certain teams, it's more of a practice than a game. But hey, you know what? That's Olympic hockey for you. There's still a little bit of a discrepancy in terms of talent among certain countries. But there have been some very fun games nonetheless, and more fun games upcoming this week. We're going to get to the Olympics more so on Thursday, but today we're going to focus on the Habs and the Habs organization and the Laval Rocket a little more. We're going to start off with the Laval Rocket because they are buzzing right now. They're still first in the North Division. You got a 31-14, 2-2 record. Pretty impressive. 7 wins in a row now. And look, with all, to warn people here watching that the Rocket are playing today at 2 p.m. We're recording this prior to that game. So who knows? It might be 8 wins in a row by now. Only time will tell. But there are certain players catching everybody's attention, rightfully so, and others raising question marks, good or bad. Now, Snake, I want to start off with the man between the pipes, okay? And last show we talked about the AHL rookies, right? Mm-hmm. He's one of them. Jacob Fowler, in 25 games, has 18 wins, 2.21 goals against, a .916 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. He has come as advertised, okay? He has seized the moment. He is the number 1 goaltender for the Laval Rocket. No question about it. Now the question remains his development, okay? Because that is something that the Habs organization cannot afford to screw up. He is vital to the future of this franchise. Therefore, I must ask you, do they employ the Detroit Red Wings style of development of overripe as hell, or do you think he could actually be ready or even benefit from getting NHL action sooner rather than later?
Well, at least we've seen him this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, should he go back again this year, or he should just finish the season with the Rocket and try and play till June? Because I think the AHL playoffs end after the Stanley Cup playoffs. So look, there could be injuries. So any AHL team, it's always very hard to predict how they're going to fare because the Habs can call up players anytime.
Yeah.
So it's not like the roster is carved in stone. And I think for, the Dauphin, Belzile, Farrell line, I think it is. I don't think they're going to be called up unless, there's a rash of injuries. But when it comes to defensemen and goalies, you never know. Is Engstrom going to be called up? Is Fowler going to be called up? We don't know yet. But I think the Rocket is well equipped right now. They have a full roster. They have a full team. Samuel Blais is there, but again, is he going to be called up by the Habs for their playoffs series? We don't know. But as it is now, I think the Rocket has all the ingredients to make a very, very long run like they did last year. The Checkers were much stronger, but they were an older team.
Yeah.
It's an almost perfect AHL team because they have young players, they have older players who can score, they have a good defenseman, and they have a fantastic goalie. Now, as for Fowler's development, I think barring injuries, he's going to stay in Laval, and he's going to do a Calder Cup run just like Patrick Roy did 40 years ago. Hint, hint about a topic we're going to tackle today.
Yep.
And Carey Price also won the Calder Cup. So, look, his development is going great. It's exactly what we expected. Yeah, the Habs have some good goalies also, Volokin and Alexis Cournoyer.
Oh, yeah.
Alexis Cournoyer, what a great story. We're going to talk about him much more in the upcoming weeks when we recap all the NCAA prospects that the Habs have. But he is vital, like you say, to the future of the Habs and their Stanley Cup chances, because I do think that what they have right now in Montreal, I mean, it's been up and down. I mean, Dobesh has had a very good season, I would say, but I see him more as a number 2 than a number 1.
Yeah, no, that's it. He's, there's still question marks in regards to the goaltending currently with the team. That's why I think there's still this discussion about Fowler. But as the team went into the Olympic break, the goaltending was significantly better, a lot more trustworthy. We'll call it like that, because it wasn't so much in the beginning of the season. But yeah, with Fowler, we're not close to the situation, right? We're not around the player. We're not around the team. So it's kind of hard for us to make up a development plan for him. However, I think the Habs have the people and the structure in place to have a proper development path for Fowler. They're not going to rush him. They don't have a gaping hole at the goaltending position in Montreal right now, so they don't need to rush him either. The goaltending is okay, but it's not, it's not a catastrophe that where, you have to bring him up like earlier in the season. So in that sense, I think they're going to roll with him in Laval. And like you say, try to give him a chance at a Calder run. Playoff experience is incredibly valuable, even in the AHL. Snake, moving along now to another player.
Can I interrupt you, Shayne? Because I want to apologize for not answering your question. Because you told me, should they do like the Red Wings with Kosa?
Yes.
And I think every situation is different. But I do think that if a guy is NHL ready, and the players you have in the NHL are not necessarily stars, I think Fowler at some point next year should be with the Habs. I don't know how many games he should play, but I wouldn't let him overripe in Laval like Detroit does with Kosa. Sorry about that.
No, that's a great answer. I mean, if you think he could be ready and actually benefit from it as soon as next year, I know you got a lot of viewers excited right there. So that's that's good stuff. But you know what? It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me at all. Like, he's got the maturity level. He's got the technique nailed down. I mean, he got a shutout in the NHL already. So that's usually a pretty good sign of things to come. Snake, another player I'd like to talk about, and we might spend a bit more time on this guy, Adam Engstrom. Okay. Second year in the AHL, not his second year pro, however. He's been playing pro hockey, but his second year in the AHL, 32 points in 36 games as a defenseman. He's had quite the season. And I want to give credit to one of our sister podcasts here, Le Sig podcast En Mode Rocket, with Vincent Demuy and Cédric Blondin, who, by the way, are the color commentary for the Laval Rocket in French, because yes, Sick Media is partnered with the Laval Rocket. How awesome is that? But point is, they have their own show. If you haven't seen it yet, please do yourself a favor. Go check it out. They have player interviews in there too. They've talked with Laurent Dauphin, Toby Bisson, Xavier Simoneau, and they're going to have more coming too. It's really great stuff. But back to what I was saying about Adam Engstrom, in one of their recent shows, they both agreed that Adam Engstrom, in their opinion, is the best young defenseman in the AHL. That's a pretty bold statement, but looking at the totals here and looking at how he plays, I don't know if I disagree with them.
Well, I think it's an interesting comment because at first, when I heard that comment, I was thinking, perhaps we in Montreal sometimes get carried away with prospects, and especially the fact that obviously Montreal observers or analysts are going to see more of the Laval Rocket than they do of, I don't know, the San Jose Barracuda.
Yeah,
that's for sure. So I did a little research, and I watch a lot of AHL games because especially for defensemen, because I do think, like we've said a million times on the show, forwards, they don't last very long in the AHL if they're good. Defensemen, teams might let them overripe a little bit, and that's okay. That's okay. And a young defenseman at age 22, which is Adam Engstrom's age, to me would be an old forward for the AHL. 22 is an old forward. But a 22-year-old defenseman is still young.
Yeah.
And a 22-year-old goalie is still very young. So I went through the list, I went through my notes, and I have to say that they have a case for saying that Engstrom is the best young defenseman. If you go through the young guys that I call, you have a guy like Tyson Jugnot that I like for Coachella Valley. He's 21 years old. He's a good young defenseman. And he's a rookie because he just arrived in the AHL. There's two other guys I want to mention, okay? Because one of them might have a higher upside than Engstrom. And he's 2 years younger. And Sens fans know who I'm talking about. Carter Yakimchuk.
Yeah.
I think Carter Yakimchuk, some prospect analysts are very, very hard on him because he's not being dominant. He wasn't dominant in his 19-year-old season. And he was drafted number 6 overall.
Yeah.
We're going to be hard. And he was drafted ahead of guys like Zeev Bouillon, Sam Dickinson, and these guys are in the NHL. So, look, I was high on Yakimchuk, but I do realize that he might have little issues with foot speed. But I do think that he's a very, very good young defenseman. He plays on the power play. He plays on the PK. And I do think that he's having a very, very good 20-year-old season. And he probably has a better upside than Engstrom. That being said, as of now, I think Engstrom is better.
Yeah.
So I do think that Engstrom is the best young defenseman in the American Hockey League. Is he the best prospect? I don't know. But he's certainly one of them. If you look at the guys. There's another guy I want to mention, Luca Cagnoni. Luca Cagnoni, Sharks, had an incredible rookie season last year in the American Hockey League. And there were some people who thought that he could make the Sharks roster this year, especially that their defense is
thin on defense. We'll just say
there's a 19-year-old guy, Sam Dickinson, and there's all these veterans. I mean, Klingberg, Nick Leddy, Timothy Liljegren, Orlov, and you're like, Orlov is not bad, but the other ones, it's like, oh boy, especially Leddy. They waived him. They sent him back to the American Hockey League. I think he was a fine defenseman in his at the peak of his career, but now it's probably the end of the road for him. Klingberg, Klingberg being Klingberg, some very good offensive plays like we saw in Edmonton last year, but also some games, I mean, he's absolutely terrible in his own zone. So that being said, I was a little bit, I wasn't surprised that Cagnoni was sent back, because Cagnoni, he's the typical smallish defenseman, offensive defenseman who can run a power play, but you're kind of concerned about the rest of his game. And he's part of the group of defensemen that we've seen over the years that made someone like me doubt Lane Hudson. Lane Hudson obviously is way more talented than Cagnoni. Okay, I'm not debating this, but they were smallish.
The mold is similar.
The mold is similar, and it shows how great you have to be to break that mold.
Yeah.
And Hudson is, because Cagnoni, obviously, look, I don't know if he's going to make the Sharks one day. I don't know if he's going to play 200-300 games. I do find him interesting to watch. He's fun to watch, and he's very good. He's only 21 years old, but at some point, will the Sharks be able to trust him? Especially that Mike Greer likes big players.
Yeah.
He likes size. Are they going to be able to trust him to on shift after shift defensively? Odds are the answer is going to be no. But, and that made me say more no than yes for Lane Hudson. But again, Lane Hudson is way more talented. We might not see a guy in the mold of Lane Hudson being so talented for the next 10, 20 years. He's really a unicorn.
He's got a brother coming up.
I like Cole, but Cole is a little bit stronger.
Yeah,
he's a little bit bigger. He's a little bit stronger. He's I would say he's a better skater, and so they are not that similar. I would say there are similarities, but they are not that similar.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's Cole Hudson is closer to a standard defenseman. He's closer to that.
That's fair.
Hudson was like, it's a unicorn.
Yeah.
How can a guy so small
beating
do
the odds
so well?
Yeah.
You really beat the odds. So all this to say that Cagnoni, I don't know if he's going to make it. Does he have a better upside than Engstrom? Well, it depends on what you mean by upside. Power play guy? I really don't know. It's a question mark for me. Whereas Engstrom, I think, will be an NHL player, will play 300 games, wherever that is. And so upside, maybe Yakimchuk, better upside. But as of now, Engstrom is, I share what our colleagues say at Laval Rocket. I do think that Engstrom is the best young defenseman in the American Hockey League.
It's hard to argue, really is, because he's having one hell of a year. And he's following up a really good rookie season as well. Like, he's been consistent so far in the AHL. So, Snake, it begs the question now. You look at the depth on the left side for the Habs defense, right? Lane Hudson's left-handed. Mike Matheson's left-handed. Caden Gooley's left-handed. Arbor Jackai's left-handed. Jaden Struble is left-handed. I'm not comparing them to Adam Engstrom. I'm just saying that's the depth right now. And Adam Engstrom is left-handed. However, he has proven that he can play on the right side, but it's not ideal, right? You want the left-hand shot on the left side anyways.
If you can, it's better, yeah.
My question being, should the Habs clear space for Engstrom or use the fact that he's having such a good season and use him as trade bait?
Okay. I think, more and more people think that he can be trade bait, but you have to be careful before you trade a prospect like this.
There you go.
I understand that Hudson is there for the long run, and probably Madison too, because he has long-term contracts. So, okay, that's fine. So whether Madison is a second or third pairing guy, that's at some point during the contract is irrelevant. But he's going to be on the roster.
Yes.
And he's not going to be traded. So that's one spot left. I think Engstrom can be more efficient than Struble. I think he's a better defenseman already. And they're about the same age, I think. But I think he's a better defenseman already. Jackai's not a very good defenseman, but he has a role. And his role is not going to be needed for 82 games a year. So will they want to keep him as a 7 defenseman that you just bring in once in a while, depending on the matchups? So I wouldn't include him in the equation either. Now, the wild card is Gouli.
What do you do? Gouli's health is the wild card, actually.
Yeah, Gouli's health. Not Gouli the player. Gouli's health. He's always injured. So to answer your question, do they trade Gouli to make room for Engstrom, or do you gamble that Gouli is going to be healthy for the next 6-7 years and you trade Engstrom? Or do you play Engstrom on the right side? I think my opinion is that in terms of defensemen, it can change. Remember a few years ago, Josh Brook, Matthias Norlinder, what's the other one? Justin Barron. They were all supposed to be fixtures. You know how we like doing depth charts with prospects and think, okay, in 3 years, this guy is going to be there. This guy. Okay, and the 3 of them are gone. So who knows how the Habs defense will look in 3 years. So I think for now, I think you hang on to all the players until you really need to include them in a trade that will make the rest of your team better.
Yeah.
Because prospects do get traded when teams, and you have to give up something. Now, is it good that Engstrom is as good as he is? Yes, because the more good prospects you have, the less you have to empty the cupboard with great. Because let's say the Habs only had Hage and Zorowski. It means that every time you call a team for an established player, they're going to say, Hage or Zorowski, now you can add Engstrom. And let's not include Jacob Fowler in the conversation. Jacob Fowler is here to stay. It's hard to find a good goalie.
He's not moving.
But Engstrom right now becomes kind of the prospect you sort of didn't think would be interesting in a trade. And while he doesn't have the upside of Hage and Zorowski, so there's less risk in trading him. I'll do a little baseball analogy. Old baseball fans will remember. In the 90s, the Atlanta Braves were a dominant team. They won 14 division titles in a row. Okay, I don't think we'll ever see this again. Maybe the Dodgers, but with all that money. So the Braves always traded for very good veterans, not too old, but 27, 28-year-old guys. And they will always give up prospects. But none of these prospects really became a star elsewhere. So they knew which prospects to trade. So I think if you trade Engstrom, you might trade a very reliable guy. I like Engstrom a lot because, to be honest, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I will.
Do it. That's the
when he was drafted, I said rounds 3 to 7. Very few players make it. If there's one guy that the Habs drafted that I trust to make the NHL one day, is Adam Engstrom. And I remember people were like, oh, okay, he doesn't have these great stats. But I love the grit. I love basically what he's showing now in Laval. He was showing it in Sweden.
Yeah.
And I was very happy when he came to Canada like last year, because if you stay for too long in Sweden, you don't want guys to get here when they're like 24, 25, and they're too used to the style of play over there. So I think a guy like Engstrom, although I like him a lot, I don't think he would be, you're not really at risk that you're going to trade an all-star. Whereas with Hage and Zorowski, you are at risk that you could trade an excellent player.
Yeah.
I think Engstrom can be a good player. And to me, on the Habs, I see him probably as a number 5 defenseman, but a fantastic number 5 defenseman.
That's it.
And you need 3 pairs of defensemen in the playoffs, because you can't just play your top 4 25 minutes a game. You need guys that you can rely on for more than 7 minutes a game. So you know what? Hang on to this guy right now. See what happens with Gouli. See what happens with other folks, on the right side. They might have to switch someone to the right side at some point.
Yeah.
And take it from there. But, if you can get a Robert Thomas, for instance, he's been mentioned in a million rumors, and Engstrom is part of the deal. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that.
You do it right away.
Very long answer, but that's how I see it, for Engstrom.
I'm in the same boat as you, Snake, but the reason why I ask is because I've seen a lot of people, wrongfully so, say that Adam Engstrom is a bit of a redundancy in the Habs organization because he's in the mold of an offensive defenseman. And now people have this misconception of that. Well, if you're an offensive defenseman, it means you can't do anything else, right? Or, we already have Lane Hudson. Why do we need another offensive defenseman? Whoa. Adam Engstrom is so much more than that. His skating alone would make him an NHL caliber defenseman. Like he's got an amazing stride. It's beautiful to watch, and it's an asset. Like he can beat guys, he can beat guys in races. Like that alone sets him apart. Then obviously the offense, right? The puck carrying, the hands, the shot. He's got an excellent wrist shot, right? And defensively, keep in mind he's 6'2". He's not going to lay out the big hits, but he's got the grit. He's got the competitiveness.
He does
play hard. So he's got pretty much the full package. Like obviously he's not going to lay out guys like Dustin Byfuglien. That's not what that's not his role. That's not what he's going to do. Right.
No. And he's not going to get, and he's not going to get 60 points a year either in the NHL.
But he's so well-rounded, Snake. I absolutely adore this player.
Yeah.
And
he's a combination
of profile,
both.
The projection. I see an NHL player all day long. So I would be very careful in trading him. However, of course, if you can get an immediate upgrade like a Robert Thomas, just a name for an example, he does become, trade bait in a sense because you have so much depth on defense already, especially on the left side. But I'm a huge Adam Engstrom guy. It's hard not to be, really.
Yeah.
Snake. Last player I want to talk about with the Rocket now is another rookie for the Rocket. The only other rookie, actually, Tyler Thorpe, has not been mentioned a ton on the show, and just in general, but I think he deserves a bit more credit. The saying goes, nothing hurts more than seeing a big player not use his size, right? It is just so frustrating. Well, Tyler Thorpe is a big player, and I'm happy to report he uses his size. Oh boy, that man is not fun to play against, and he can chuck him, by the way. That guy can fight. So we come back now to this discussion among Habs fans and pundits and the media and all that, saying that the Habs are lacking size and grit.
Yes.
Tyler Thorpe does not lack size or grit, and he is already in the organization. However, the offensive, abilities or potential is slightly limited. So what do you see as in terms of his future in the organization? Could he carve out a role someday with the Habs?
I think when it comes to fourth liners, because obviously he will be a fourth liner, or even a 13th or 14th forward, because I don't see Tyler Thorpe playing 82 games a year in the NHL. However, yes, he does use his size. And when you're limited defensively, because Tyler Thorpe, although he's only 20 years old, only has 9 points in 47 games. I mean, you can't expect much more than that in the NHL. But you do need size, and you do. But when you have a guy who doesn't use his size is useless. He's absolutely useless. But he does use his size. He showed a little bit of offense with the Vancouver Giants at the age of 18 and 19, so it's not like he can't play. I think this is the type of player that, since you need size and fourth liners is often a revolving door of players, very few fourth line players will have a long career in the NHL, but they can help until there's someone better, until they cost too much. I do think he has a chance for that reason. Does he need more seasoning? Yes, I would keep him another year in Laval. He's only 20. And hopefully at some point get a little bit more ice time. But I knew you have to balance out everything, because he also needs to play, because once you get to the NHL, even if you have size and you're using it, you can be a liability. I mean, remember Michael Pezzetta? Michael Pezzetta was a fighter. He used his size, but Martin Saint-Louis at some point was so afraid to use him. He would get like 3 minutes of ice time. You don't want this. You don't want a guy getting 3 minutes of ice time. You want a guy who's going to get at least 8-9 minutes per game if you're going to be on a fourth liner. So we'll see. We'll see how he develops. He's a big player. I think he was listed at 230 pounds last time I checked. And every Stanley Cup championship team has guys like that. But they need to be able to play. They need to follow the pace of the NHL.
There you go.
That I'm not sure yet. I'm not saying he can't. I'm not saying he can. I'm not sure yet. But he's a 5th-round pick, and I think it was a good gamble. Gamble. It's not even a gamble. 5th-round pick. You're just throwing darts.
That's it.
And they saw something in him because when he was drafted, let's not forget that his first season of eligibility, he was not drafted. It's because at age 18, just like Bryce Pickford, at age 18, he was better. He was almost a point-a-game player in Vancouver. So and he's a young 20 because he's born in August. So he's a young 20-year-old player, and I think he held his own this year in Laval.
Yep. He hasn't looked out of place at all.
No. So let's see how it goes. But you need size. And if you can draft these guys instead of having to trade for them, we shall see.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because I'm very glad you mentioned how, Stanley Cup champions have similar types of players in the lineup.
Yeah.
Take the Florida Panthers, for example, the most recent example. It's easy.
The Lightning had it. The Colorado Avalanche had it. They all do.
But they had AJ Greer and Jonah Gadjevich on the 4th line with Thomas Nosek, right? So that's 2 players right there with a similar type of profile. But the reason why they were so effective is because they ground down the opposition. They were so intense on the forecheck, and they got those greasy goals that put the team up by a goal, right? So
there you go. They got the goals.
That's it. If Tyler Thorpe can find that role, he can be very valuable, very underrated piece. Because
AJ Greer, let's not forget, as a minor league player or a junior player, was a star offensively. He was a star. He played midget AAA in Quebec because he's born in Joliette. And then he went to the NCAA. Then he came back to the Q, and he was always an offensive star. Tyler Thorpe was not an offensive star, although he could chip in 27 goals last year. So he can chip in, but that's the thing. Very often, fourth liners were offensive junior stars.
Yeah.
And even Gadjevich, I think, was a 2nd-round pick. He was not bad also as a young player. So we'll see. We'll see about Thorpe, but you do need guys like these, and we're going to follow him closely with the Rocket. Absolutely. I mean, I think to me, it's more interesting. He's more interesting to follow than some of the 22-year-old forwards who are towards the end of their first entry-level contract.
Yep.
And who have sort of not really progressed to NHL level without having, because the Habs top 9, let's face it, is going to be loaded very soon. Within 2 years, it's going to be loaded. It's already very good, but I think it's going to be loaded within a couple of years. So guys who are like 22 years old in the American Hockey League and don't produce, how can they find their way to the top 9 of the Habs when you have Hage and Zarowski ahead of them? Whereas Thorpe, it's not that profile. It's a 4th liner to play maybe 40, 50 games a year. That's the profile. Like I said, we shall see.
We shall see. Well, look, if you guys want more Laval Rocket coverage, I recommend you go over to the Le Sick podcast on Mud Rocket. Once a week, they go about an hour, and they spend all of that hour talking about the Rocket, the week that was, the players that stood out, all of the above. Do go check them out. We're going to talk about the Rocket as the season goes along as well, but right now we're going to move along to maybe a future Rocket player, maybe not. Maybe he'll make the jump straight to the NHL. That's Michael Hage. who had himself a 5-point weekend. How about that? And the shootout winner. Snake, I know you watched at least one of the games against Penn State.
Yeah, I did.
Talk to us about Hage.
Well, I think Hage has been terrific all season long. And I like to see a player like him perform in big games. And, Penn State has Gavin McKenna, so it's a very high-profile team. And I think he outplayed McKenna, but let's be honest, he's like two years older. So that's normal. But, I like what I've seen so far. He hasn't slowed down. He's been constant all year. He was great at the World Juniors. But sometimes, players go back, and there's a little bit of a period of time between the World Juniors and the NCAA tournament where it's like, what do they call it? Like, not a dead time of the year for hockey, but it's sort of like you've been through the daily grind, and then you sort of let go. Then you get your energy back in March, but he didn't. And what a beautiful shootout goal that we all saw on the social media.
Yeah.
But I don't look. I like spectacular players, but I'm not going to base my. I'm not going to judge a player based on a shootout goal. But I do like what he's done. Michigan is still number one. Will we see him with the Habs this year? Depends on how far Michigan goes. As for Gavin McKenna, look, he's just being Gavin McKenna. He's the most skilled player in this draft. But sometimes I wonder, and just a little Olympic moment here. I watched Albert Smith against the States. Against the States. I don't care what he does against Denmark, but against the States, I watched him. He's playing against NHL stars. My God, he's so self-confident. He's only 18 years old.
Yeah.
He got the puck out of the zone. He was never lost, in his coverage of players. He played on the power play. And I'm not saying anything. Okay, it's just February 16th. So I'm not going to commit to any prediction or stuff. But if I were an NHL team, picking like number 2 or number 3, and I have the choice between McKenna and a defenseman like Schmitz, what do you value more? A 5'11" forward with great hands, and I would say a questionable in other aspects of the game, or a young defenseman. He's playing in Finland, by the way, this year. So it's very good for him because it's higher caliber than Latvia. I really liked him a lot in Finland this year. And I'm not going to base my judgment on one game against the States, but still, he really, really looked good. And just like Slavkovsky looked good in the Olympics a few years ago, Moritz Seider in 2018 looked good. Mm-hmm. And his draft stock was really helped, although the competition was not as fierce because NHL pros didn't go to the Olympics. So I do think that Albert Schmitz is not or Schmidt, as they pronounce his name. I don't think that he hurt his draft stock with this. And again, I'm just throwing the question out there: who do you go for?
I like
because and I know it sounds ludicrous because especially that I've been such a fan of Gavin McKenna until the Memorial Cup last year. Mm-hmm. I thought he was the next McDavid, and now I'm sort of picking him apart. And I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. And I'm thinking 5 years down the road, what kind of player do you want on your team? That's going to be a big decision because McKenna is a big name. And in the past, remember Shayne Wright was a big name.
Yeah.
And I think McKenna will have a better career than Shayne Wright, by the way. But I'm just saying that Shayne Wright was a big name. And look what happened, how people reacted when the Habs passed on him, when New Jersey passed on him, when Utah or Arizona at the time passed on him. It's like, hey, are you guys nuts? This is the guy we've been hearing about for the last 3 years. And you're passing on him. Maybe the same thing will happen with McKenna. Who knows? Who knows? I don't think he'll drop lower than 4th.
No.
Not a chance. But I think it'll be like, how do teams see him? Do they think that he can still be a superstar, or are they going to take him because he's a name? And honestly, when Seattle took him, I think they just took a name.
Yeah, because now
there were other
likely
players
shopping to trade him.
Exactly. I think they were just drafting him next. Oh, he dropped to 4th. Now he's a value pick. I'm not even sure he was a value pick at 4. I had him ranked at 6. And to be honest with you, I regret today ranking him at 6 because I think he's lower than 6. He's not a bad player, by the way. I think if we did a redraft, he would still be in the top 10. But I don't think he was that much of a value pick at 4.
That's it. It becomes interesting. It becomes interesting. Well, look, this is setting up the table for the rest of the season up until June. Okay, we're going to keep having those discussions, mostly on Thursdays, because that's when we talk things other than Habs. But very spicy, very spicy. I like that a lot. Listeners are welcome to chime in the comments as well about everything we talk about. We want to hear your opinions, your thoughts, your questions, your comments, your criticism, whatever it may be. We want to hear it, unless it has to do with Snake's hair. We're past that. Okay, you got a haircut. Look at the guy, fly. Okay,
yeah, but it's not well combed this morning.
Come on, you're underselling yourself, man. You look great. Okay, Snake. Before we get to our recommended topic, I think it's a perfect opportunity for me to tell all of our listeners about our great partners here at the Sick Podcast who make this show possible. I'm not just saying that to say that. Like, they actually do make this show possible. And I want to start off with our friends at Cheapest T-Shirts. Okay, it's very simple. If you're looking for the cheapest prices on wholesale apparel in Canada, you will find them at cheapesttshirts.ca. Proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers from coast to coast, they deliver unbeatable value every day. You'll always get the cheapest prices, plus same-day shipping, and even next-day delivery. So your order arrives fast. They have over 1,000 products and more than 36 trusted brands like Gildan, Jerseys, American Apparel, MNO, and Comfort Colors. The selection is unmatched. Plus, you can enjoy free shipping on larger orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes online ordering a breeze. Get the cheapest deals in Canada today at cheapesttshirts.ca. And if you're trying to make a little bit of money on the Olympics, well, I recommend you go over to Betway, where you can get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. You can scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 years or older. Please play responsibly. Okay, in our last show, someone in the comments posted this here, and we want to tackle it. So Jacob Slapshot says, you guys should make a video about comparing the Habs of 2026 to the Habs of 1986, 40 years ago, who had 10 rookies, with Snake analyzing how he saw the team back then and how the team evolved over the years, comparing to how he sees the current Habs in the future. This is a fantastic topic recommendation. Snake, I know you're excited to tackle this one.
Well, it's a loaded question. Obviously, being 60 years old, I remember clearly the 1985-86 Cup. I was 20. And just to put it in context, it was a major surprise. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, said that the Habs had it easy because the Calgary Flames at the time, a good team but not a great team, eliminated their arch rivals, the Edmonton Oilers, which at the time was considered one of the greatest teams of all time.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. So the Habs at some point, eliminated Calgary very easily in the finals. So it was an unlikely Stanley Cup winner. Why also? Because I would say that they did not have a great... Sorry about that. They did not have a great regular season. It was a mix of veterans from the glory years, like Larry Robinson, Bob Gainey, Mario Tremblay, who were still around, and 10 rookies. But not the 10 rookies. There was no Macklin Celebrini. There was no Lane Hudson. There was no Cole Caulfield at the time. It was mostly role players, most of them, except for one, Shell Dahlin, who still holds a Montreal Canadian record.
Yeah.
71 points for a rookie. And then the guy just melted. He only had one very good season. And even in the playoffs, he wasn't great. But anyway, he had a great regular season. And so you can make a parallel with this year's team in the sense that it's young, but they're not all rookies. They don't have 10 rookies. And so now, how did I see the team at the time? So that's the first question. Now it's very easy to see what happened. So, at the time, I saw a team, honestly, that was solid, but that was also lucky to have won the cup. And I was kind of right and I was kind of wrong. The reason being, the Habs in the following 2 seasons, although they were eliminated, they still made another Final Four. Then in 1988, they were eliminated by Boston and the coach Jean Perron was fired. But then when they hired Pat Burns in 88-89, with a lot of the same players, they reached the cup final. And honestly, Calgary was so strong at the time. It was the only team that could beat the Habs. The Habs had, in 1988-89, one of the greatest regular seasons that they've had since the glory years, if not the best.
Yeah.
Better than the 1992-93 cup winner. So, like I say, I thought they were not as good as a cup winner, but I think I underestimated the fact that it was a solid team. And it was sustainable because then in 1990, 91, 92, they got eliminated. But then in 93, they made changes. Serge Savard made changes to the roster, and then they won the cup. So a lot of players from 86 were gone. But still, you could see that it was a sustainable organization. Although, again, in 1993, one might say, Pittsburgh was eliminated by the Islanders. For sure. Those 2 cups had to have a little bit of luck in the sense that 2 fantastic teams were eliminated before by other teams that the Habs took care of very easily. So now the comparison with this year's team. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, they had players who were a little bit on the older side in 1986. Larry Robinson was 34 years old, and he was their top defenseman. Is there a Larry Robinson on the Habs right now? No, because he was fantastic offensively, and he was fantastic defensively. Mm-hmm. So you don't have a lot of Larry Robinson in the NHL, period. Quinn Hughes is not a Larry Robinson,
Let me help you. There are none.
There are none. I think there are none. Well, all things considered, that it's a different era. But that type of player, you had a guy like Chris Pronger a few years ago, I think in the NHL, who was kind of a Larry Robinson. The Habs also had a great young forward, Matt Snaslund. He was 25 years old. He had 110 points, the last Habs player to get 100 points. Maybe Nick Suzuki will get it this year, but he was the last Habs player to get 100 points. He was, imagine, I don't know how to compare Naslund, but size-wise, think of a Brendan Gallagher, the grit of a Brendan Gallagher, but much more offensive talent.
That's it.
So he had limitations because of his size, but he was still great. I mean, he was very, very hardworking, and he was tough, although he was small. Mm-hmm. And then, they had Guy Carbonneau, probably the best defensive forward of his time, who was 25 years old. They had Bob Gainey on the back nine of his career, but it was still effective. And Mario Tremblay, it was his last season. He was a great, great bottom 6 player. he was an energy player. The guy really, he gave it all on every shift. But he had to retire before the playoffs because of a skin problem. And as for the rookies, I think they had a guy like Claude Lemieux, who was a pest and who scored 10 goals in the playoffs, very important goals in the playoffs. And I think he became probably one of the best pesky players in the history of the NHL. He won the cup in Colorado. He won the cup in New Jersey. And this was a guy, imagine Sam Bennett. Okay, during the regular season, in the playoffs, the guy was ready to kill, you know. Yeah, so Claude Lemieux was like a Sam Bennett. Do the Habs have a player like that on their roster right now? Not sure. And so it was a nice collection of players, with veteran players, with younger players. You know, on defense, they had, Peter Swoboda, who was like 20 years old. They had Tom Curvers, who was 22 years old, to complement Larry Robinson. So in the sense, I think there are similarities with today's team, but I think the young players of today's Habs are more talented offensively. But the young players of the Habs from back in the day were grittier.
Built for the playoffs.
And again, it was only one cup. But still, 3 years later, they reached the finals. It was a solid team. And I think the Habs perhaps have more upside than that team in the future, but they're going to have to get grittier.
Yeah.
Now, we have to talk about goaltending. The rookie Patrick
You made
Watt.
the parallel earlier in the show, so
Yeah.
great setup.
Patrick Watt, 20 years old. Very average regular season, which is normal for a rookie goalie.
Yep.
And he had won the Calder Cup the year before in Sherbrooke, when the Habs had a farm team in Sherbrooke. And it was like a three-headed monster goaltending situation. See the parallel with this year? They had, a guy like Doug Soudart, who was a veteran. Think what's the goalie? Montembeault, Samuel Montembeault. I was thinking Marchessault. It's Montembeault. And they had a young guy, Steve Penny, who had been very spectacular in the playoffs 2 years before, but we didn't know if it was going to be sustainable. So think maybe Dobesh, in a couple of years, if he doesn't turn out as good as we think he could. And then there's that rookie, the Patrick Watt guy, wins the Calder Cup. He's 20 years old. But then in the playoffs, the guy was lights out. He was lights out. And he's the main reason that he won the Conn Smythe Trophy. And he became an instant legend. That very tall, skinny guy, 20 years old. And so can Fowler be a Roy at some point? I think all signs point to there are similarities, but I don't think it's going to be this year, and I don't think it's going to be a surprise, or I don't think Fowler is going to show up in April because there's an injury, and then he takes the Habs to the Cup. No. But I think in the long run, I think today's Habs, it's going to be more sustainable in the sense that there's an age group where the Habs have a core age group that's growing together. Whereas the Habs back in the day, yes, they had these rookies, but they also had older players like Robinson and Gainey, who are obviously would be gone a few years later. Whereas the Habs right now, look, the oldest good player or very good player that they have is Nick Suzuki, and he's 26.
That's it. Yeah.
There's no 35-year-old star, let's say, who we know is going to be gone. There's no Drew Doughty, if you know what I mean.
No, exactly.
There's no Drew Doughty in Montreal. A star that is on the twilight, in the twilight of his career. So I don't know if that answers the question. from our listener. I
so.
hope I was clear enough. If I wasn't clear enough for those who haven't seen that era, and I think a lot of our viewers didn't see the 1986 Cup, just go to the questions section, commentary section, and if there's anything that I've missed, just let me know, and we'll talk about it again.
I think you answered beautifully. I wasn't born yet, but I felt like you brought me back to that era. I was a part of it now. I was in it. So great answer there.
Were your parents born? I think they were born. Your parents were born.
Yes, and
do they remember? Do they remember that cup?
Oh, my dad tells me about it quite often.
Okay,
don't worry about that. I've heard the stories. Yeah, there's a reason why I like hockey so much, and it's in large part because of him and those teams there. Juggernauts in Montreal. But anyways, Snake, moving along now. We're at the tail end of this show, but we have still one very important thing to tackle. It's time to go digging in the mailbox. God, I said mailbox. Mailbag. Anyways, we have one great question today, and this one is coming from Nicholas Lynch. Okay, I'm going to read it to you all here. He says, Laurent Dauphin is having an amazing season in the AHL. And wondering if you guys see him getting called up to the fourth line at some point over guys like Owen Beck and Florian Jacki. Do you see his production as anything meaningful, or is he just having an anomaly year? I wasn't convinced at first, but he keeps racking up the points every game and important goals too. Nicholas, I mean, he's not just racking up the points. He is arguably the most productive player in the AHL this season. He's having a phenomenal year. However, he did sign an AHL contract. So this is where things get interesting, Snake.
Yeah, I think what happens with a guy like Dauphin, if you go through the recent or even older history of the AHL, there's a lot of 28, 30, 31-year-old in this case, 30 years old in this case, who basically do extremely well in the American Hockey League, because I would call them 4A players, like there's AAA baseball, AAA players in baseball. And we call it, the 4A players, which basically are not good enough for the NHL, but they're too strong for AAA. I think that's the case with Laurent Dauphin. I think Dauphin is signed as a guy who will provide offense, leadership. You need veterans like him. And obviously these guys make a higher salary than the rookies in the American Hockey League, so they can make a good living, because the leverage that these guys have is that they can go to Europe. And actually Dauphin did go to Europe a couple of years ago. He went to Switzerland. But if you give them a good paycheck, I mean, they're going to produce. They're going to be they're fantastic for an American Hockey League team. I could have come up with a gazillion examples of guys like Dauphin who just got a cup of coffee in the NHL. And I think the thing with these guys is that very often they are very good offensive players in the American Hockey League, but in the NHL, they're not good enough, and they cannot be fourth liners, to answer that question. Because fourth liners, it's kind of unfortunate when you think about it, but a guy like Tyler Thorpe probably has a better chance of making the NHL than Dauphin did.
It's true,
Yeah, I say unfortunately, because of the way it's done. You always prefer to have like the most talented offensive players, but this is not how rosters are built. And if you look at Dauphin's career, when he was like a young American Hockey League player 10 years ago, he was not that productive. And Arizona, they gave him a chance for a few games, but they kept sending him back. And I can't say that he started producing very much before joining the Rocket. I would say even then, he really started producing, I would say, 4 years ago with the Rocket. So he's kind of a late AHL bloomer, late bloomer in the AHL. So it's not even a guy who at age 20 would show in the American Hockey League that, like I say, forwards, usually they get to the American Hockey League. They tear down the league, and then that's it. So, short answer, Dauphin is a Laval Rocket probably forever. Well, as long as they want him on the team. I don't think he's going to be in the NHL unless there's a big rash of injuries. But again, will he be useful on a fourth line? I don't know.
He's found his role.
Because he did play for Montreal 4 years ago, by the way.
He did. Yeah. He had a cup of coffee there, but I think he's really found his role. Like, he is supposed to be, an AHL offensive focal point. Right?
An AHL star, basically. An AHL star.
Yeah, exactly. That's where he can thrive, and he is thriving. So I'm with you there. I don't think he's a fourth liner in the NHL. I don't think that's a role suited for him. I think first line, big minutes in the AHL, comfortable at home, right? He is with his family. He's in a great situation. I think this is where he belongs. That's where he is right now. And you're seeing the results. I mean, what a season.
Every organization tries to have a lot on Dauphin.
Yeah.
But some of them go to Europe. The Sharks last year had a player like this, Andrew. I'm forgetting his name, but he was a top scorer. But he decided to go to Europe. And I think teams don't have a salary cap in the American Hockey League. I think if teams are willing to invest a few hundred thousands of dollars on guys like this, I think they are extremely valuable. Extremely valuable. You can't have 20 rookies. You have to give ice time to your rookies. You have to nurture them also. And I think by and you want to win, but ideally you want to win not just with veterans. You don't want to be the Hershey Bears.
No,
or even last year's Charlotte Checkers and Abbotsford, and you really want to develop young players and also win. So you play the Engstrom, the Fowlers, the Runbachers, the Becks, the Jackeyes, but you need guys like Dauphin and Belzile to go. They wouldn't have that record if they didn't have guys like Dauphin and Belzile.
No doubt about it.
Look, the Rocket were very, very well managed, I have to say. It's a very, very well managed AHL organization, and that's why they're having success at the gate. Because, it's packed. The arena is packed
every night.
Every night for an American hockey player team. And honestly, I was skeptical in 2017 that they would have more than 3,000 people in the stands. I know it's the Habs farm team. If it were like the Edmonton Oilers farm team, they probably wouldn't have 10,000 spectators. I do agree, but they do a fantastic job. And I'm not saying this because they're partners with us. You know me, Shayne.
You say it like it is.
I say it like it is. I mean, if they stank, I would say they stink. Mm-hmm. Okay, even though they're our partners, and then I would be reprimanded, but I don't care. So I do think it's a fantastic organization.
We also have to uphold our integrity, right? If the team is poorly managed and everybody can see it, yet we're saying, "Oh my God, they're the best, they're amazing, they're incredible." Obviously, we look like idiots, right?
Exactly.
That's false. That is.
If I'm going to look like an idiot, I'd rather look like an idiot for predictions or stuff like
that. Exactly.
But not for lacking credibility when it comes to criticizing teams. And I in the past, just to conclude on the Rocket, when they were in St. John and Hamilton, they didn't have great teams, and I think it's a combination of things. Yeah, you have to draft well, which was not always the case. Yeah, that your best players, you're going to lose them. And that's why you have to build your roster in such a way that you add the right veterans. And not just guys who are just going to come for a paycheck, waiting to be called up by the NHL and having a bad attitude. And that's happened in the past in American Hockey League teams.
Yeah.
They're also lucky to have Pascal Vincent, who's a very, very experienced American Hockey League coach. I know he didn't go well in the NHL with Columbus, but so we don't know maybe under other circumstances what could have happened. But one thing is sure, he's a great coach for Laval. He's a great AHL coach. So teams don't have a salary cap when it comes to investing in scouts, in coaches, in skill development. in American Hockey League players and wealthy teams should take advantage of this, because it's the edge that you can have over a lower revenue team, because with the salary cap, but the Toronto Maple Leafs have a lot of money, but I don't think they do well with their development.
Yeah, well, that may be a topic for another discussion.
It cost them. I think it cost them a Stanley Cup or two.
Oh,
well, with the big four that they had, I mean, really.
Digging the knife in.
No, but look, I'm not against the Leafs. I mean, I thought 10 years ago they were going to win a couple of cups, and I know,
you said that.
I'm not the type of guy. It's Toronto. I hate Toronto. No, I don't hate Toronto. I just say I would have said the same thing had they been in Florida. Mm-hmm. But I do think that they screwed up. They screwed up a fantastic situation, and hopefully the Habs don't.
That's it. Listen, there's one guy in Toronto that I do love, and his name is Sid Cicero, and he is now a part of the SIG podcast family. That's right. For those who are not aware yet, been living under a rock. Like, what is this? The Sid Cicero Show is actually number 1 in Canada for sports podcasts. How about that? He is crushing it, folks.
Darn, it's not us. It's not us.
Listen. We are a big family, so if one of us is there, we're all there. That's how I see it. But he's done an amazing job. Him and Jeff, his producer, they do fantastic work. Even if you hate the Leafs or anything Toronto, I recommend you watch it still, because Sid goes off on these tangents, and man, you don't want to miss that. So go check them out. Go check out Laval Rocket, our SIG podcast, Laval Rocket show. It's fantastic. They do a great job there. And of course, I mean, if you're not subscribed to this show yet, what are you doing? Come on, help us out a little. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. We will be back again on Thursday. Send in your topic recommendations. We might just use it. Snake, anything else to add before we get out here?
I also have a podcast in French.
That you do, my friend, on KO Sports.
Yeah. Mathias et le Serpent with great co-host Mathias Brunet. I mean, we argue all the time, but we really like each other when the microphone is turned off.
Hey, how about Mathias' son, eh? How about that?
Yeah, he made the MLS team in Nashville, number 12 as a rookie. And hopefully he's going to get some minutes this year. But the thing is, he made the team as a rookie. He was a 3rd-round pick in the MLS draft. So I think, coming to Montreal on October 24th, hopefully they give him a few minutes when he comes to Saputo Stadium. So, congratulations to him. Not many players from Quebec make it.
That is a great point there. And all the credit to the Brunet family. Clearly very talented bunch. Snake, it was a pleasure doing this show again with you. We'll be back again on Thursday. Thank you to producer Jimmy at Master Control. I'm producer Shayne. This has been another edition of the SIG Podcast. Trust the process. We'll see you Thursday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the SIG Podcast, Trust the Process on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.